It's Kasim with the Daily Google News, and I'm here with my buddy Hector, who is the best podcast producer I've ever known in my entire life. Hector, you're the producer on Perpetual Traffic. You're the producer on Roland Fraser's show too, aren't you?
Business Lunch.
Business Lunch. You're the producer on Digital Marketers Podcast.
We have your podcast, the Google Ads Podcast.
The Google Ads Podcast. Last but not least.
It's coming up, and probably about a half a dozen other shows in industries and niches, from mental health to politics to business, blockchain, health. So we really specialize in information and educational podcasts, a lot of interviews and experts that we work with.
Well, and what's kind of cool is I got to see behind the scenes firsthand. The Perpetual Traffic Podcast was already successful, but if you look at before Hector and after Hector, I think the downloads went up by like 4 or 5x, right?
Yeah, about that. It took us about 3 months to double them, and then in another 3 months we doubled that again.
Yeah. So I mean, you're no BS. You know what the hell you're doing.
Thankfully, I've had some hacks at it. You know, I've been doing this for, at least in our industry, longer than a lot of people, and so it's something that, you know, it's a practice, but it's something that you can definitely get better at. And like YouTube and like any of these other mediums, there's a way to do it. There's best practices, and you know, you kind of give your best shot at it.
Yeah. So if you're watching this, here's what we had Hector do for us. Is he was already the producer on the Perpetual Traffic Podcast. He and I got to know each other there. We became buddies. And I think you came to me and you're like, dude, you could just turn your YouTube channel into a podcast. And I was like, yeah, but that's hard and it's a pain and whatever. But Hector made it so easy. And what's cool about it here is if you search for Google Ads Podcast, this is nuts to me. I'm, first of all, the second organic ranking. And I'm second after the Paid Search Podcast with Jason Rothman, which is a great podcast, by the way. Like, these poor guys have invested years and massive amounts of energy, and they've earned their spot at number 1. And here I am at number 2, and I did nothing. Well, I mean, you did a lot, but I did like absolutely nothing. So I'm second organic. And then here's Google's little slider on the podcast. I'm second here too. And we show up quite a few times with our little Google Ads podcast. And you just, I hope to diminish it, man. I'm not trying to downplay what you've done, but for me, it felt like you just snapped your fingers. But you took all the audio from our YouTube videos. You picked what, 3 a week? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, we're doing 3 a week, and we're just taking your YouTube videos and putting them onto a podcast.
Yeah. And so this is what we want to teach people, how to do what you just did. Because if you want to take your YouTube channel and you want to turn it into a podcast the way that Hector did for Solutions 8, it's been unbelievable from a visibility perspective, an SEO perspective. And it's not just about lead gen. Like, don't think to yourself like, oh, am I going to get any clients out of it? Because we use it for lead follow. What are the other, we were talking before we started recording.
Well, it's just a great, you know, ascension tool or a warm-up tool, right? There's a lot of industries where that sales cycle is a month, 2 months, 3 months, a year, you know, 2 years sometimes, where people are thinking about it. I know you were, you know, talk a lot about the Montessori aspect of it, you know, the Montessori industry, and how those sales cycles, you know, are years, or right, people are planning them before they even have the kid. And so in those instances, podcasts can be this great tool that people can listen to at their own kind of rate and at their own speed, on demand. And that's in a place that all of a sudden, if you're on iTunes, if you're on Apple, if you're on Spotify, there's some legitimacy to it, that when someone is listening to you on their Apple podcast, well, you're there next to all of their other favorite people. And so I think that there's a component of that goes along with it as well.
Well, you own the industry. It's so funny to be, I own googleadspodcast.com, which kind of shocks me that was available. So no matter if you're watching this and you're in an industry, let's say you're an arborist, bet money the arboristpodcast.com is available, and all of a sudden you're like the person, you're the dude or the dudette who just now is the, you know, the definitive thought leader, because you bought a $9 domain and actually produced it, and you're already doing all the work. If you've got a YouTube channel, especially, you're already doing so much work. If you don't repurpose it, you're leaving so much money on the table. Hector, do me a favor, show them the stat before we're going to the nitty gritty. We're actually going to show them like how to do this, but let's show them the stats on my channel just so people can see, like, we're actually getting listens. That's the other thing that blew me away, is people are listening to the damn thing.
Yeah, people are People are finding it. And I think, what's cool is that obviously podcast is a slow burn. And so I would
Right.
start by telling people that, within the first week, like it's a slow burn, right? But if you are persistent, and we've done 3 a week. And what's great about Kasim's channel is that he's already been doing the hard work of creating the content. So at least our part is simple. Maybe you'll see what we do today and say, man, that's not easy, but at least it's simple. And there's kind of a set number of steps. And so what's cool is that I think, what's also nice about podcasting is that as you continue to those, there's a stickiness factor. And so these people who listened at the beginning are oftentimes listening again over and over again. And you don't always get that with a lot of mediums, especially like with YouTube, where people watch one video of a creator and they kind of go their separate ways. What's also kind of interesting is we were just talking about it before, was all the different places that people were listening. What I really love about podcasting is Spotify and Apple and all these different platforms have found a way to kind of crawl into the depths of the world, and Bulgaria and Denmark and Pakistan, and obviously great place, like nothing to speak on those places, but just the fact that from where you're at in Arizona, you're able to reach those people. It's just I think
what's
really
great
cool
about that for me is we hire a lot from our media. A ton of our employees come out of our YouTube channel specifically, and so to be able to reach those same folks internationally, will you do me a favor, scroll back down and then go to page 1 on the geographic distribution? I just want to see, because it was like 50% the US, which is great. So from lead gen, I'm already hitting, and then 50% US, another 12% UK. Canada's at 7, Australia's at 5, Spain's at 3, and all of these are marketable geographies for me. So I'm probably like 70% lead gen and then 30% recruiting, which is maybe exactly where I want to be. So I'm getting customers and I'm getting potential hires out of this, which is just awesome. So let's, as much as you're willing to open the Komodo, how do you do it?
Yeah. So I'm going to show you almost everything except one thing you've got to figure out is how you can get your own, get the audio off of these videos, right? You can go into YouTube Studio and you can actually download the videos. What we do is we have a way that may or may not be of terms of service that grabs the audio from the YouTube channel. And what this does just makes it a little easier on Kasim's life so that he doesn't have to do anything, but it lets us grab the audio and we're able to put that, into the next project. So if you can grab your audio, you're good. You can see
how
here
do you
with
pick the
Kasim
videos, Hector? I'm not picking these for you anymore, right? Your team just takes it and runs with it.
Yeah, we do. And what we'll do is recency is probably our biggest thing. And so if there is a video that that's new and fresh, we'll go with that one first. Otherwise, we kind of you can sort by most popular here, and you can see which videos are doing the best. And obviously you guys are running ads to some of them, so that's something that we account for, but there are other ones that you can just tell, like, oh, that's a good that's probably just a good one, right? That's showing up in search. It's kind of an evergreen search topic. Those ones, when there is not as much of a wealth of content, those are the ones that we go and reach for, is the ones that have performed well over time.
Got it.
So we grab the audio, and the next step that we use is Descript. And I think this is something that we've talked about on the Perpetual Traffic podcast before, but I really love it because it allows you to do a couple of things. So what you can do is you can actually just drop that audio in. And so we've already grabbed an audio. Let's just actually, it might take a little while to grab another one, but this audio here, you can now just edit in like a Word document, and it takes Kasim's YouTube video, and you can just take out all of the the filler words. As you can see, some of the words are not supposed to be there. The ums, the uhs, the you knows. It allows you to just highlight them, and you can just delete them there. And then if it catches up a little bit, sometimes when you're running lots of programs, it runs a little slow. But what I really love about this program is it allows me to go straight to our podcast host. And so Descript, after we can put some music on it, we can drop some sound in here. If there's a sensor beep that we need to throw in there, we had a recent episode where we had to put quite a few, there's quite a few F-bombs that got dropped in there. So it makes it really easy to do that kind of editing.
Was that Adam?
No, it was who was the one before? It was Steve. It was Steve Sims.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So what we can do is we can just click this Descript kind of integration, and it'll take it right to our podcast platform. You click a couple buttons, and within a couple of uploads, you're off and ready. And what I really love about Captivate here, who is the other platform that we use, is that the distribution part is really easy. And so when you create a podcast, there are lots of in here that you can just go in here, and they're called one-click kind of distribution ones, and it'll just submit them to all these different platforms. And so there are a few, like Apple's still a little sticky to get on. Spotify is pretty easy. Google's kind of in the middle, but there's a lot of them where you can just click. Amazon Music, you just click and it'll get you up there. So this is the last part, and then it throws it into your, if you've ever kind of published a blog post, now you've done everything you need to do. You click publish, and there's some kind of fancy stuff that you can do along the way, but otherwise that's kind of the whole process.
Yeah. And if you have a YouTube channel, there's no excuse not to do it, because you're already producing the content. I know you're making it a little bit easier than I'm sure it is on a day-to-day. There's some nuances, but for the most part, like, it's a pretty straightforward, download the audio, edit it. And you've done some cool stuff for me. There's production value, bookends. We've got a little jingle. We did an intro with a guy on Fiverr, and then we posted up, and now you have the opportunity to provide value to so many more people. And the thing about it is, way more people listen to podcasts than watch YouTube.
Well, I think that there's also a recency bias on YouTube that doesn't necessarily exist on podcasts.
Isn't that funny, dude? Podcasts are more evergreen. It's the same
Right.
thing.
Same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's weird how our frame of reference change, or when our frame of reference changes, so too does our paradigm. Like, if it's on YouTube, that's old news. But if it's in a podcast, I'll listen to something that's 2 years old.
Well, I think it perhaps has a lot to do maybe with the algorithm. I think that's one thing that the podcast world is perhaps missing, that they point to a lot is the algorithm of YouTube. But there's this battle that, and we can get into this, so this is going to go too long, but there's this battle of decentralization versus centralization. And YouTube has this centralized algorithm that does the work, provides the monetization, and, is kind of almost king. Whereas podcasting, so much of the ethos is to be open source, RSS feed, and to not be centralized. But with that comes this challenge of discoverability. And along with that, though, comes this, like you said, that people don't, they associate podcasts a little bit differently. Yeah. Perhaps because they found it on their own, or because it is a little different, though.
No, that's well said. So people can do this by themselves if they want to. I'd recommend they hire you, because you're my buddy and I like you. And I think that you've scaled this in a way that even if somebody tried to do this themselves, they'd never be able to do it as efficiently as you can. How do people work with you?
Well, yeah, it's a time versus money thing. You've either got more time or you've got more money. And I think that you're in a place, we both have 2 kids. We've got a business, a number of responsibilities, and I think that you're in a place where you've got less time. If you have more time, all the tools that we went over today, I think can cost you less than $30 a month to do, to have everything, a podcast, the editor that I talked about, the script, all that, is less than $30 a month. If you're on the other side, and if it's like, we try and be the easy button, where I first heard one of the hosts that we work with, Kasim, I won't mention his name, but he said, he's like, this podcast thing is so easy. And at first it kind of made me mad, because I was like, if only you knew, and there are some different steps for sure. But then I heard a couple other people say it, and I was like, well, maybe there's something to that. And maybe that is, that's kind of, where we've leaned into, is to be that easy button. So if you just want to have a podcast, like, you're good at creating and you're good at knowing your stuff, then we can do the rest, and we can be the easy button. So if you want to go to amplafymedia.com, that's AMPLAFY, like the Lakers, ALAFY media.com, you can get info there. And if you go to amplafymedia.com/checkup, you can put in your info there, and I'll do an overview and give you some ideas and thoughts and some things that you can do if you've already got something going.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's a good little call to action there.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
I got it from a smart guy with some long hair, actually.
Yeah, there are not many of those floating around. So
yeah. He
like
was
a unicorn.
He was really tall too. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Podcast has been honestly a game changer. Perpetual traffic's been a game changer for us. That put me on the map. And then having my own podcast now too has been interesting.
What's interesting is last week, we got to get some work to get you back in there, but there was a time where you were the host of 2 top 100 rated marketing podcasts in the world.
Wait, hold on. My podcast was in the top 100.
We peaked out at 83. We've got some climbing back to do, but we peaked out at 83.
And then what did it drop to?
Like 120, 130, it was just, which is just not as sexy as a number as being like in the top 100,
Yeah.
So I was hoping that it would go the other way before I mentioned it to you, but I thought that was cool.
I had no idea. Yeah, or maybe I did. Did you tag me in something on LinkedIn?
It might have been.
Yeah.
I need to do a better job of bragging about that stuff because I don't, but
Super cool. Well, I appreciate you sharing the secret sauce there. And if you're watching this and you have a YouTube channel, you have to repurpose single podcast. You don't have a choice. If you don't, and you need a form of media distribution, this is a really good one. Podcasting is really like accessible. You get to.
We didn't even talk about the SEO benefits, that come along with it too.
It's huge. When you get to hide is, what I've noticed too, when I try to encourage my employees to make YouTube videos, all afraid to show their face. Like a podcast
For
is
sure.
A little more anonymous. So Hector, super appreciate you, man. Hope to have you back. Any closing words?
Just go do it. I think it's a lot more daunting than it seems. Even being in the world, it took me 2 more years than I started my podcast 2 years after I should have. And that was just because I thought it was more technical than it was going to be. And so it can seem really scary, it can seem kind of daunting in that regard. And so that's kind of why I tried to model my business or, after what we do, but it's not as scary as, it may seem just once you peek under the hood.
You're awesome, man. Appreciate you being here. If you're watching, I shoot a video every day. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Wait, before you go, I'm constantly looking for amazing people to come join our team. So if you're passionate about Google Ads and you're passionate about customer success, please go to solate.com/apply. And we'd love to see you as a part of the Solutions 8 team. Also, if you like this video, give us a thumbs up. It lets the YouTube algorithm know that we actually know what we're doing. And don't forget to subscribe. We shoot a video every single day, and I don't want you to miss out on any of it. Lastly, if you have questions, comments, concerns, confessions, or you just hate my face and my voice, go ahead and hit us up in the comments. We get very little human interaction, and even the heckling is something that I kind of get a kick out of. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being subscribers if you're a subscriber. Don't forget to apply if you're interested in working at Solutions 8. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow.